Last question. We'll start with Ms. Stumble. Would you be willing to take money from higher education in order to fund elementary education?
Over the past 2 years, we made significant progress in reducing the tuition for higher education institutions in our state. When I attended the University of Washington, when I entered as a freshman, when I graduated as a senior, my tuition increased 60%. That is an incredible burden for not only our students, but our middle class families. And this year in the legislature, 2015 session, we finally made a stride in reducing that. I believe that true pathways to living wage jobs, true pathways to small business ownership doesn't just involve a strong K-12 system, but also a strong higher education system, community and technical college system, apprenticeship system. And so if we take dollars from the higher ed system, we will be sacrificing a portion of our education. I think there are other opportunities we have to fund K-12 as we discussed earlier this evening. And it is so important for our young students. I had students from University of Washington in Seattle and Tacoma in my office today saying, please do not go back on the work we've done. It's precious to us attending school and getting our degrees.
I personally don't see that as a trade-off, as an option. I don't see that you have to fund one or you have to fund the other. To me, education is so vital, and to say, oh, we're only giving it to you if you're in higher ed, or we're only giving it to an elementary school, that doesn't make any sense. We need to prepare them for higher ed for those who want, and we need to make sure they have the ability to go, and that there are good schools with good training, whether it's a four-year institution or a community college or a technical college. We have to make sure they're there, and we have to give them the funding when they start. So we have to find funding for all of this. If we just say, yes, we're giving you K through 12, now you're on your own, sorry, no higher ed, that's a lot of our family and living wage jobs gone. If we say, I'm sorry, we're not helping you in elementary school, how are they going to get to college? So I don't see that personally as a trade-off. That is not an option that would be on the table. They all need funding because that is where our jobs come from. Elementary, secondary, K through 12, K through 16, all have to be funded if we want the state to continue moving forward. And I want the state to continue moving forward.
Thank you. I would not take money from higher ed to fund elementary education. I believe that robbing Peter to pay Paul is never a good solution, especially in Olympia, because Peter never gets his money back. That's just the reality. He never gets his money back. So I like to take things on their own merit, and if there are areas that should be looked at, that should be changed, we should be doing that. But the responsibility of the legislature is to fund both elementary education, K through 12, and higher ed. So everything that we can do to make sure that the students that are going to college can actually afford it and complete their education in 12 years is money well spent. So thank you. Another thing, just before I finish. Something that is very important that we should be looking at I know it's federal student loans, but we should start lobbying the federal government for no interest student loans. Thank you.
So if you take money away from higher ed, that means tuitions go up, which means students have to take out federal loans. And I don't know how many people in this room have taken out a federal loan lately. I have, and it's 3.4% for an undergrad degree and 6.8% for a graduate degree, which is more than a car loan. Sometimes it's more than a house loan, a home mortgage loan. And when we start making people pay their student loans back, there will be a generation that will drastically impact the economy of Washington State because we are a regressive tax system. We rely heavily on sales tax. And when people are paying off student loans and they're not buying things, that's a drop in our economy. We're not going to be raising the same amount of revenue. So we cannot take money away from K through 12. We have opportunities to raise money so we can fund both.
When the legislature on a bipartisan basis decided in 2013 to to freeze tuition after years of tuition hikes. People took note, and that was a popular move by the legislature. But then in 2015, when the legislature not only froze tuition, but reduced college tuition, and making it easier for middle-class families and low-income families in this state to make ends meet and to get a good education, that was historic, and the nation was watching. We better not touch that policy because it is a good one. And a lot of legislators on both sides of the aisle did a lot of work last year to make that policy happen when a lot of people wouldn't have thought that could have been possible. It is a good policy, and there is a limitation on future tuition growth within that policy. We should respect that. We should not make deep cuts into higher education like we did in previous years. We should keep our limitation on tuition growth. Thank you.
If you're a baby boom generation or previous generations to that, you grew up in a different economy. It's just the reality now. What a high school diploma used to get you as far as competitive wages, it doesn't cut it anymore. A minimum of a 2-year, if not 4-year degree is the equivalent now. And until we wrap our brains around that, you can be saying, and in addition to that, tuitions have gone up significantly since your generation. So, like Hans was saying, I mean, that's a great step, reducing tuition, but we also need to be in the business of making it tuition free. I advocate for the first 2 years of community college or technical school being free, and I see that the same as a continuation of the K-12 education, because that's just the reality. As far as funding that, so obviously I'm opposed to reducing. I believe we should be increasing our funding for college education.